We're okay. First of all, we're live, right?
We are so live. Yes.
Cool. It's just so nice we're changing the camera stuff a little bit. Look, we have two logos.
Isn't that great?
Nice. It's so live. You should put another Jupro one in.
So it's complicated for me, but
and I can't find that in that corner.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just so nice to connect with you guys. Like, Corona's really changed how we do things with Jupro. And, I miss our big dinners and everything. And it's been, sorry, I was just distracted because I was looking at a text message that came in on my watch. We're real. We're very real. If you haven't figured that about us. Anyways. Oh, I'm going to turn it on also.
Okay.
I want to see who's coming. Sorry. I can't focus anymore. This is what Corona's done to me. Okay.
Should I take over? You got this?
Should I talk about my day a little bit?
Yeah, why don't you share everyone with your day before we get started?
So it's nothing like fascinating, but I went to IKEA today. It wasn't so packed at all, but it's a big store, so there's a lot of space for people. And it was fun. I went with my brother. And, it's nice to have friends and family and people that just appreciate different things and do different things with you. Like, my kids wouldn't want to come to IKEA.
No,
you wouldn't want to come to IKEA. So that's really nice. And we tried to go to Trader Joe's. Who loves Trader Joe's? How much? No, really what I want to know is how much you love Trader Joe's. No, actually, correction. What is your favorite item at Trader Joe's?
Oh.
If there was one
thing. Yeah, weigh in on the chat on that. Your favorite thing on Trader Joe's that you love from Trader Joe's the most. Okay? Guys, weigh in. I know there's dozens and dozens of you out there. Just go ahead and weigh in on your favorite things that you love most from Trader Joe's. I'm going to actually share. We don't know how to log in to get this streaming to your Facebook, so I'm going to share it from.
Oh, nice. Okay. So I want to know, what are your favorite things at Trader Joe's? I'll tell you mine. The high protein burgers. Well, let's talk about things I couldn't live without. The high protein burgers are amazing for their vegetarian veggie burgers. They're not like the most, they're good. They're good if you dry them up. Green sauce, a pickle, I wrap it in lettuce. Actually, here's some eating tips, right? How cool is this? You can heat up a should we just interject for a second?
Yeah.
These comments. Okay. Todd says everything but the elote.
Todd, I think you mean bagel.
They might have another one that's different, but I don't know what that is.
Todd, if you're talking about everything with the bagel, I don't know if you are. I literally poured it the other day into my hand because you guys season it for challah. I poured it into my hand, which I disinfected from the coronavirus. What's up, Dimitri on Instagram?
Hey.
Somehow our Instagram doesn't work as well, so if we lose you, just join us on Facebook. But I poured everything seasoning on my hand, and I just went like this.
At least you weren't eating plain salt.
Right.
You got a little nutrition in there from the sesame seeds.
Yeah. What's up? Shout out to Ben as well. Ben and I shot an epic a rabbi and the mayor a couple hours ago. Check it out on our Facebook pages. Ben actually, and Avrami joined us, but Ben actually created a little ditty that he sang for us. Ben sang for us on Rabbi and the Mayor. Check it out. Ben, you could type in the chat at what point in the video you started singing, but it was truly, truly inspirational. Little song dedicated to the Kansas City Chiefs, who I hate with a passion, but the song kind of warmed me up to them, to be honest. So, that's Ben, thank you for that.
Can do. Ben, you said the Trek mix. I don't know that one, but it sounds like a good Colorado food.
Yeah.
Right? Probably some sort of trail mix. Sounds good.
You know what else is really good, actually, is the it's coming to Chanukah. So, if you could segue. The latkes. Oh. The latkes are amazing from Trader Joe's. They just freeze them up. Big shout out. I don't know if he's watching right now, but Josh Raderman, that guy makes some ridiculous latkes. I think he's coming actually to the Jewish Experience Salon making some for our home shul program. We have a home shul program that you can actually attend various classes by other rabbis that have been recorded years ago, but we've assembled them for you. You can join them. cool platform.
It's like a whole Hanukkah curriculum that's virtual, and you do it on your own schedule. And then you get to come together and learn together live and talk about some of the ideas and go further with your very own.
This is true. And I'm going to share actually some ideas from that tonight. So if you missed it, you don't have to worry. Okay.
But then you don't get all the other stuff and the latkes.
You don't get the latkes.
I might have to go into the office tomorrow.
Tomorrow would be a good time to check out the latkes.
I've been meaning to go in.
I've had a lot of good latkes in my day, but Josh's are among the best.
Yeah.
Check out Josh, cool dude. Josh, if you're watching this, love you. Love your latkes. And guy can rap too, actually. He put out a beautiful Hanukkah rap. So really inspired me.
That's why you're so close.
We have this kindred spirit of a love of rap. Yeah, I used to actually write raps. As a matter of fact, in college, I wrote, it was called Parsha Poetry.
We still have some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to serenade Sarah with my poems as well.
Not Parsha ones.
No. I'll give you a shout out all the time. It's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
We were only were we engaged at the time? We were engaged. Maybe we were married for some of them.
I don't know if we were engaged the whole time even, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
One more big just shout out.
Yeah.
So we're actually doing this really cool thing Thursday night, the first night of Chanukah, with our good friends at YJP, Zalman Popek and Rivka Leah, as well as our friends at Yad and our friends at the Den, coming together, and a really, really cool program online. Comedians, they're funny.
Cool.
Probably even funnier than us on the Life in the Bunker, potentially. And there's still, I think, limited packages available. Actually, to if you sign up, you can get like these goodie bags with awesome stuff in it, donuts, drink mixes.
You don't want to miss.
Drink mixes. It is lit fam. It's lit fam. It's Thursday night. Thank you, Charlie,
what did you say
for helping us out. With deliveries. Thank you to Lee and everyone who's been helping us out. We appreciate y'all.
Oh, nice. It's lit fam. Is that what you said?
It's lit fam.
What is? I know lit, but what's fam?
I don't know. It might mean family. So we're all family. Guys on Facebook, let me know.
What is lit?
What is lit fam? We're curious to know.
I said it's nice, but apparently you could be more descriptive than that. A lot of things are nice. This is lit fam.
Mm-hmm.
Except we don't know what that means.
In Yiddish, it's lichtig mishpache. Okay?
That's lichtig mishpache. I can't even say it.
Lichtig mishpache.
Try saying that 3 times fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, should we just...
That's a good segue into Hanukkah.
It's a beautiful segue into Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a very special holiday. It's coming up Thursday night. Very special for us as well, because we became parents actually on Erev Hanukkah, the day before Hanukkah, 12 years ago.
Was I even in the hospital still for
12,
the first
12
night?
years
I think
ago?
I was.
Probably. 12 years ago, we became, our son Avrami was born.
Yeah.
And it's a very special time in the Wolf House. But what we wanted to do is I'll share just a couple insights that have always kind of inspired me about Hanukkah. We'll turn
going in that order?
I think so.
So you're going to do the about Hanukkah first?
Oh, I forgot to do that.
Oops. You do that first?
I didn't prepare that. Oops. We'll just get into the philosophy of it.
And then I have some more Hasidish flavor type of stuff to share about Hanukkah.
Yeah. If anyone does have questions about the how-tos of Hanukkah, just message us, comment.
Can we just go over a quick...
Yeah, I mean, some of the basics.
I always forget. Which way do you put the candles in? Which way do you light from? Find a good place right by the window to put the menorah. Okay, good. Right. So the point of the menorah is we call mefarsem the nes. So we call pirsumei nisa. We try to publicize this idea that a bunch of years ago, God did a miracle for the Jewish people, and we have a menorah. Interestingly, for a lot of mitzvos, there's the letter of the law how to do it, and then the above and beyond way. Yeah. But is it the hitter mitzvah? The hitter mitzvah, yeah. With the lighting the menorah, there's actually 3 levels. Can I just ask you a question? Hitter, what does that mean again? To beautify. Beautifying. Okay. So there's actually 3 levels when it comes to the menorah. The first is the most basic. What is that on the most basic level?
that you take a menorah every night in every household, and you light one candle each night. Okay, so it's a grand total of 8 candles is all you need to fulfill the most basic requirement.
So that's like a good riddle. What do you do if you like, oh, Hanukkah's 8 nights, I need a shamash, okay, I have 9 candles. What do you do? So you light one each night.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Because you might think like maybe I should just do it in the beginning and maybe I'll get more. Or maybe if you can't get more.
Save one for each night, you fulfill your obligation.
You might think, oh, I'll wait for the 8th night and just do them all.
Right.
But no.
No. Okay, that's the most basic level, but that's not, it's not what we do. Then there's a level up from that, which is every person in the household over bar mitzvah age lights one candle a night. So not just one in the household. So if there's, we have a household of 8, but there's only 2 of us over bar mitzvah, that would mean every night 2 candles. Okay. And then there's what we call the mahadran mina mahadran, the strict of the strict. Okay. The most beautiful of beautiful ways to do it. Yeah. And interestingly, this is something that everyone does, right? This is what the entire, Jewish people have accepted upon themselves, really. This is what we do, is that there's various traditions of this, but minimally for each night of Chanukah, we add another candle, right? So obviously the first night 1, 7th night 7, 8th night 8. And depending if you're a Sephardic Jew or an Ashkenazic Jew, if you're a Sephardic Jew, it's actually typically 1 menorah for the whole household. Usually the father of the house lights for everybody. The reason for that is because the significance is it should be clear. She's already yawning. Okay, it's 11 minutes in, already putting her to sleep.
Shopping trips today.
So anyway, with the menorah, right? So it should be clear what night you're up to, meaning that's how to beautify the mitzvah. So the idea is if you have a whole bunch of menorahs scattered and right on top of each other, you can't tell, and that you lose out. So the Sephardic Jews have a tradition, 1 menorah per household. Any Sephardim in the house, so let us know. If you're an Ashkenazi Jew,
and I like that. It's not that like the other people can't light. It's that it just has to be clear how many, and it's not clear if there's lots of menorahs.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because like you could look at it and be like, hey, that's not fair. We all want to light. But when you understand, it's not about that. Like so many times I think it's about like whatever I'm thinking. So if you realize, like, take a step back, and there's a bigger picture to it.
For sure. And by the way, Todd points out very correctly, the blessing the candle of Chanukah. Interestingly, also, we'll get back to the Ashkenazi tradition. The blessing also says, "Blessed are you, Hashem, Baruch atah Hashem, God who commanded us to light the candle of Chanukah." I have a question. Did God actually command us to light the Chanukah candle? Is Chanukah a Torah obligation? Is it written in the Torah that you must light Chanukah candles? Like, for example, my dad is shaking his head. Okay, we have a live audience here at the Wolf House where I grew up. My father is shaking his head. No, he's right. It doesn't say this in the Torah because it happened after the Torah was given. This is a rabbinic mitzvah. Yeah. So how do you say, thank you, God, who commanded us to light the Chanukah candle when it wasn't actually a mitzvah in the Torah?
Wow.
Maybe some food for thought. Maybe I won't answer that yet. You can chew on it, write it in the chat. It's like I feel like I'm teaching on Zoom to my high school kids. Just throw it in the chat, let me know your thoughts. Charlie comments, it's a lit question. Thank you, fam.
Why is it not a lit fam question?
It's a lit fam question. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. So I'll let you think about it while I share the Ashkenazi tradition. But if you didn't hear the question again, please weigh in. Why do we say thank you? Hashem who commanded us to light the Chanukah. He didn't command it to us. Okay. Now the next, if you're on Instagram with us, also feel free to give us your approach here. Let's
just put this up here.
Okay. Anyway, so in the Ashkenazi households, so typically the custom is that everybody lights a menorah over bar mitzvah age, certainly. And even children who reach the age of chinuch, which is about 6 years old, have a custom to light as well.
Hi, Nir.
What's up, Nir? So in Ashkenazi houses like us, the children light also. The older ones, over 6. Now this is interesting. There's a beautiful idea actually in let's say hashkafa, meaning Jewish philosophy of a relationship of a marriage. Ishto kegufo. a person's spouse, a person's wife is like himself. Like we're like one. You get married, you become one. It's a beautiful. I see my. I have a reminder on my phone to do 75 push-ups now. I'm not gonna bore you and put you through that, but I'll remember to do it later. Now it's you don't get this big, from not doing push-ups every night, 75. But anyway, actually, don't. I got to be better at it. Anyhow, what was I going to say? So Nir's saying it's the same in the Sephardi household. Nir, can you elaborate? What's the same? We have a real Sephardi with us today. Thank you. Can you tell us what kind of Sephardi you are? You like Moroccan, where you come from, and what exactly how your family lit the Chanukah candles? But in most Ashkenazi houses, again, children light, other people light, and the way that it works is that ishto kegufo, meaning a person's spouse is like him himself. So Sarah and me are one. We're two halves of one soul. We came together. We're now one. Ishto kegufo. Now, this does actually have implications in halacha sometimes. This does have halachic ramifications sometimes, which is that the following. I actually light on behalf of Sarah, and she's fulfilled her obligation through me. The halacha teaches because ishto kegufo, because we're like one. You filled your obligation through me, through ishto kegufo. Now, Nir is a Yemenite Jew, which is awesome. I actually taught this to my high school kids recently. There's something very cool about Yemenite Jews. So this is a little bit of a side point because he told us that he's Yemenite. Okay, and apparently their tradition is that people from a younger age actually do light. So some Sephardic houses, it's not like that, but in Nir's house, they certainly do light once they're a certain age. So that's awesome. And I'm curious if there's other Sephardim with us, if that's what you do also. Because sometimes the Yemenites have a slightly different tradition. I'll give you one example. Nir, tell me if you knew this. This is very cool. Okay, it's a little complicated, a little in the weeds, but I'm teaching about this, and this is awesome because we have a real Yemenite with us. I'm so excited. Okay, so
to tell your students tomorrow.
Yeah, because we have this like theoretical case. Okay, on Shabbos, you're not allowed to cook. Okay, however, when it comes to solid foods, you are allowed to cook or reheat, I should say, if something's already been cooked. So if you have like some delicious potato kugel, you're allowed to put it on a hot plate if it doesn't look like the normal way of cooking, because the potato kugel has already been cooked. There's a principle in halacha. It's called ein bishul achar bishul. It's a blian. It's called ein bishul achar bishul. There's no such thing as cooking after it's been cooked. You're allowed to reheat solid foods on Shabbos if it doesn't look too much like cooking. You don't raise a flame. All right, you're allowed to put it on a blech, a little more complicated than we need. Okay, now
with a pan.
So what we do is we overturn a pan because that doesn't look like cooking at all, and that's fine.
Put it on top of
you put it on top of the overturned pan. Yeah. Now, with liquids, we assume that actually it is called cooking after it's been cooked, right? So if you have a delicious, freedom onion soup, matzo ball soup, some sort of soup, and you have it Friday night, you put it in your fridge, okay? So you put it in your fridge, you pull it out. You're not allowed to put that on the hot plate because reheating it is called cooking it, and you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos. However, the Rambam, Maimonides, says it's not called cooking after it's already been cooked. Now, most everybody doesn't actually practice that way.
Wow.
But I've saw in some sources, I'm curious if you're aware of what your family did. There's a halacha book called the Penine Halacha where he describes Yemenite Jews are very strict. They always hold like the Rambam. And therefore, Yemenite Jews actually go ahead and can reheat on a hot plate soups on Shabbos. Take it out of the fridge, have delicious soup for your Shabbos lunch. Nir, I don't know if you remember your own tradition on this, but that's what the Penine Halacha said. And what this means is if we went to Nir's house for Shabbos, and he did that because that's his custom, we'd be permitted actually to partake. But we can't invite him to our house and be like, you mind kind of grabbing that soup and putting it on the blech? That we can't do. Okay?
You couldn't do at his house for him.
Correct. Correct. Okay. But we got to get back to Chanukah. But yeah.
But at least for Ashkenazis, I don't know how Sfardim do it, but since we can't have liquid, if you think about the kugel, it's perfect. You could have potato kugel. It's all solid. Squash kugel, broccoli kugel, cauliflower kugel, carrot kugel, sweet potato kugel. You could have all these different kinds of kugels, apple kugel, because they're not it's just like an easy way to make the food, and you know it's not liquid. There's not like liquid in the pan. It's just all of a kugel.
Right. Good. Back to Chanukah. Okay, so those are just some of the basic halachos.
Yeah. Can I just just point something else out related to that? And you can see it there. So it's interesting what you said about like ishto kagufo, that husband and wife are like one person, and so you light the menorah for both of us. So on Shabbos, like if I wasn't there at the home for Shabbos, you would actually have to light Shabbos candles for me. So like every week when I light Shabbos candles, I have my family in mind so it's like it switches, right? You could be like, well, why does the guy do it and not the girl? But like I light Shabbos candles every week, and that has you in mind. So like sometimes it's like, maybe I shouldn't say this. Maybe no.
Okay. I don't know where you're going with this, but when in doubt, don't say it.
It's like if one says like, oh, so-and-so got so-and-so, it's got such and such, right? Isn't that great? So-and-so got such and such. Yeah. I'm like, okay. So sometimes you get such and such. Like you don't have to, it's not like tit for tat. It all works out in the end. So too, I just think so many times the more I'm learning about things, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it. But yeah, there's this and there's that. And it really all works out in the end. And it's so cool.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is, Nira, is each one of your grandparents on all sides Yemenite, or you have like some, Moroccan, some, from Algeria, some from Egypt? Because in theory, I think Yemenites are allowed to reheat cooled off liquids even from the fridge, which you're saying that if it hadn't completely cooled off, you could reheat it. That is even actually, according to the Ashkenazic tradition, if it's still somewhat warm, you can reheat it.
It's one of the conditions.
But I think the Yemenites go further, actually. So it's interesting. Yeah. I'm not sure. Okay.
100%.
But 100%. Wow. Okay. Beautiful. All right. But back to Chanukah. So I just want to share actually. So we got on this nice epic rant. That who lights in the Ashkenazi house? I can't even light for her, but my children light. Okay. Now the other just last interesting halakha I want to share, and then we'll go on. The whole point of it really is to show the world the basically to share with the world again this miracle that this miracle happened of Chanukah. They see the distinct Shabbos Chanukah lights. It's interesting. You're not allowed to get benefit from the menorah. So on Shabbos, you have Shabbos candles, and you're meant to enjoy that light. It's meant to enhance your Shabbos experience, to provide light, right? Not so on Chanukah. You're actually not allowed to benefit from the light of the menorah, which is why we have something called the shamish. A separate candle stands alone, should be higher or lower or distinct from the other candles. Then if you do end up using that light, it's okay. And because of this, interestingly, it used to be that women were not aware of that halacha. It was just not a well-known halacha. So women have a custom for the first 30 minutes. We're meant to make sure that the Shabbos, the Chanukah light lasts for 30 minutes. Women have a custom not to do what we call malacha during this time. Things like laundry or other of these like kind of household tasks that are time consuming. They don't do that then. And originally part of the concern was that they would use the light of the menorah to do those things. The other reason they don't do it is because a Jewish woman was a heroine in the story of Chanukah, Yehudi. Basically, there was this general, and she was like summoned to him, and she fed him, I think like cheesy, milky foods. Yeah. Got him really, really drunk on wine. Guy fell asleep. She cut his head off. I think they
she's the hero.
They put his head, I think, on the city walls, freaked everyone out, and that was obviously a big deal for our ultimate victory. Now, with all that said, one last interesting halacha, and that is, let's say that you are on a cruise ship, and the cruise, there's a problem, pirates take over, and you swim, you abort the ship. Mm-hmm. All you have in your back is your backpack on your back, okay? The only thing you have in your backpack is a menorah. You make it to Micronesia, okay? Big shout out to Micronesia. Apparently, it's a place where this happens sometimes. A bunch of islands, and people end up there on this desert island in Micronesia. Wow. And all you have in your backpack is a menorah and some candles. No food, but you have a menorah at least. should you light the menorah on Chanukah in Micronesia on a stranded island? There's no one around. You're on a desert island. No one's going to see. We just said the point of it is that people see and recall the mitzvah. What do? Right? Or let's say it's dangerous. God forbid, you live in a country with rampant anti-Semitism, and it's dangerous to post in your window to leave a menorah where everyone sees you're Jewish. Should you still light in your own house? Should you light in Micronesia? And the answer is a resounding yes, because at the very least, it reminds you of those miracles. And even if you're not sharing with everybody else, you see it, you're reminded of it. And therefore, even if no one else is around to enjoy and benefit from the remember and see the beauty of those lights, at the very least, you should light for yourself.
It's for our own personal growth.
Exactly.
Something I saw really nice is there's a house I saw they have like a big window, and already for like a week they've had all their menorahs set up right by the window.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it. Yeah. Okay, now there's actually just one question before I turn it over to you. About part of the philosophy behind what Chanukah is all about. I think we're going to just there's so much to say, but I'll kind of just summarize a couple of thoughts here.
Did I answer this before?
Oh, I didn't see. You're saying if there's a case of pikuach nefesh, so if I assume, and you can explain here what you mean, but if pikuach nefesh, which means that if God forbid lighting it, I think is what you mean, would endanger my life, right? So obviously you would not, it's a good question, not obviously, it's not obvious, but you would not risk your life necessarily to light. If endangering your life, this is not one of the 3 cardinal sins that you have to give up your life for. So typically we would assume that you don't need to die, so to speak, or risk your life at risk of not lighting the Chanukah candles. It'd be the general rule. However, the halacha brings down, because this unfortunately happened a lot, you should light it, if you can get away with it, on your kitchen table, right? Or where there's no windows around. You close the windows, no one sees, no one's suspicious, then absolutely, the halacha says light it in your dining room table. It doesn't have to be near the window in that case. So it's a good question. Unfortunately, it's happened too much in our history. Excellent question. Okay. So that's a little bit of, I would say, a halachic overview of Hilchos Chanukah. Again, if there's more specific questions, let us know how we can facilitate you doing this beautiful, beautiful mitzvah. Now, just one interesting thing to consider is the following, that a big we did start this program on Monday nights. Yeah. It's called Steig. We matched up individuals with community members, and you're able to study kind of one-on-one. So I shared this idea at the end of that last night a little bit. But what is the connection between Chanukah, which we're celebrating right now, and it happens to be that every single year without fail, we actually read about the story of Joseph during this time.
Wow.
During Chanukah, every year. What's the connection between Joseph on one hand and Chanukah on the other hand? And there's a number of different approaches to this, but one approach that I think is very powerful is that a double dog dare, all of you watching right now, open up the Chumash. You can find it online, Chabad.org. You can read the Torah portion. The next 2 or 3 weeks, the stories of Joseph. Yeah. He does something that just the literary reader of Chumash will notice. Joseph constantly is evoking God's name. Mm-hmm. Whatever he does, he's invoking God's name. And I have here a nice little source sheet from a class I gave a couple years ago. I'm not going to bore you. I would say bore you. I'd say I'm not going to rivet you with all these awesome sources here. But I want to share just a few of them, that when Joseph descended to Egypt and this guy named Potiphar acquired him, as a servant, Hashem was with Yosef and his servant, and he saw that God was with him, meaning this guy Potiphar saw God was with Yosef every step of the way. Why? How did he know? Rashi tells us, because Shem Shemaim Shagor B'Piv, that the name of God was constantly in his mouth. He was always talking about God. Oh, wait. Okay. It's like he's always talking about God. He says he's probably always saying Baruch Hashem, thank Hashem, pleased with God's help. Always invoking God. and he was kind of spreading this idea of God in the world, kind of what we spoke about last week, about Emunah, belief in Hashem. He was always living with that, always talking about that. And this is actually, the great Rabbi Pincus used to say he was always praying. In any situation, he'd always be uttering a prayer to God. Very important. Now, the next time we see this in the words, so very powerful story, interesting story. The wife of Potiphar tries to seduce Joseph and really tempts him and tries to seduce him. And ultimately, Joseph is able to get out of it. And he says, how could I do such an evil act and sin before God? Meaning even this most like physical, lustful feeling that he was tempted to have, he couldn't do that against who? Against God. It's crime against God. And then ultimately, the prison guard, he's sent to prison. He's falsely accused. The prison guard saw that Hashem was with him because, again, he's always invoking God. And at some point, there's Pharaoh has like a scary dream. And they remember, oh, Yosef, he's quite the dream teller. He's very good at interpreting dreams. And Pharaoh calls up Yosef from prison. He says, this in a couple, maybe next week's parsha. He says, I had the scary dream. I heard you're like quite the dream teller, right? So what would you, I'll tell you what I would do. What would you do if you're in prison and the king calls you and says, I heard you can help me. I heard you're good at interpreting dreams. Can you help me?
I'd be like, yeah.
I'd be like this. If someone can answer me, by the way, I don't know if you saw the Broncos game against the Chiefs. No. Like all the rookies, all the players, like always like pose like this. If someone can explain to me why, I'm like genuinely, is that just like the cool dude pose? Like I'm into that. I'm pretty cool. I just got some new Cole Haan shoes. Getting another pair coming tomorrow. Thank you, Cyber Monday. So I'm into being cool. Okay? I'm very into being cool. Mm-hmm. Why do people do this? But yeah, I'd be like, I'll tell you, Mr. Pharaoh, I am pretty decent dream interpreter. I'm quite good, I must say, and I can help you a lot. But, for me to really help you, I have to be like free. It's hard to effectively interpret dreams being in prison, right? And what does Yosef say? He says the following. He says, I can help you basically, but like really, I only get my power from God. Okay. And there's more. We see this.
Humble.
He's so
That's
humble.
True humility, by the way.
Yes.
It's like, your greatness. That you're special because you are, and you have so many talents and skills, but recognizing that you don't have them because of anything you did. You have them because God gave them to you as a gift, and now it's your responsibility to use them. That's humility. Exactly.
And not only that, when he names his children, Ephraim and Menashe, what does he say? He says he calls his oldest Menashe. He says, Kinashani Elokim es kol amalives ve'es kol beis avi. Because he made me forget God. God made me forget all of my toiling, my suffering, that I had. And then he calls his other son Ephraim because ki hifrani Elokim ba'aretz ani. Hashem made me fruitful. Everything is about Hashem. Okay. I could go on and on and on. I encourage you, double dog dare you to read it for yourself and just notice it. It's pretty cool.
It's one of the coolest, I think. It's like one of the most interesting parts of the, with the stories in the Torah. Like the story of Yosef and his life is just, it's remarkable. There's just all the lessons to take from it. So many things happen, and we know so much about his life, which means that there's so much we can learn from it, because if there wasn't what to learn from it, and it wouldn't be there for us to read.
Beautiful. Yes. 100%. So inspiring, so dramatic. It's like so intense. And so the question is, again, he's constantly talking about God all the time. What does it have to do with Chanukah? So on Chanukah, as we said, the mitzvah is to what we call to be mefarsem the nes. You publicize the miracle, right? Chanukah was established by the rabbis a bunch of years ago. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us, because there was this jug of oil that lasted for 8 nights. It was only meant to last for 1 night. It lasted for 8.
Like I'm in class.
and lasted for 8 nights. And the rabbis chose that miracle as a expression of God's immense love for us. And that's what we're remembering is God's love for us, like in the darkest time of year. Yeah. And now is the darkest time of year. And we're commemorating God's intense love for us, even in that darkness, in that difficult, dark time. So the point is when we see those lights, we recall that miracle, we recall that love, and we publicize it. In Israel, they put it outdoors. Everyone can see. Here in America, thank God, where it's safe, God willing, it should continue to be safe. We put it, for all to see on the windows, and we publicize the miracle.
I think Charlie's referring to.
We tell the tell, Maccabees Yisrael. That's another great thing, by the way.
There's lots of good Chanukah music.
A lot of great Chanukah music. I think the best is 613's boy band Chanukah. Where they go, we are
Is the Lion King one? Is that also Chanukah?
That's Passover, I think. We are inspired by Chanukah's fire, believe. Okay. That this miracle of a tell me why. Okay. Anyway, so the whole point of Chanukah is to publicize God's greatness, God's miracles. That's exactly what Yosef was. He was a walking menorah, basically, a walking mefarsem nes. That was his whole essence, his whole life, was publicizing God's miracles, God's greatness for all to see. And that's what Chanukah is about. And that, I think, to a large extent, is our role as Jews to some extent. Meaning, we believe that we're a nation of Mamlechas Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh. We're a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. We are meant to reflect God's light into the world for humanity. We're called an Or LaGoyim, a light, like the light of the Chanukah menorah. Yeah. We're a light unto the nations. We are meant to always be reflecting God's light to humanity. We're meant to live our lives in a way where we're living like Yosef. We're living like this Chanukah menorah. And maybe now, during Chanukah specifically, is time to revisit that idea, to recall that idea, and to strengthen ourselves in that idea. And I share with people that, honestly, what I love about wearing this thing everywhere I go, not only that it covers my, my balding. It's funny. I wear this all the time, so I don't realize how bald I am. It's like not as bad as I realize. Like, it's worse than I think it is because I always have this mercifully, covering it. But I also rejoice in wearing this because it's like a badge of like I am like reflecting God's light, and it's a reminder. It's a reminder that people are like looking at me. They're always like observing and looking at me, and that's the Jewish guy. What's he going to do? How's he going to act? And I used to have a problem driving a little bit, but I thank you, farmers.
What do you mean? You're a great driver.
I'm a great driver, but when I moved here from New York, not quite as much. I get a little angry sometimes. But the Farmers Insurance app makes me drive slower because then I get discounts on my insurance.
Do I have that?
We got to get you on that because that'll save us more money. Okay, let's do that. But but in general, it's like you're in the store, someone needs someone to hold the door open or whatever it is. Like they're always watching, which is awesome. It's like such a blessed opportunity.
You're not like so anonymous because you're a Jew.
So we got to represent. We got to be like Joseph. We got to be like the menorah, share God's light. And it's a true gift. And maybe on Chanukah, we can rejoice in that, focus on that. Chanukah is also, like I said, a time to bask in God's love. It was this unnecessary miracle. The bigger miracle was that this band of yeshiva boys held off a big army. And yet we choose to really focus on this miracle because it reflects God's intense love for us. And our job as well during this time is to use that light and to see the miracles in our own lives. All of us have so many miracles. They're so easily, they could go over our heads sometimes. We don't even perceive them. And I've said before, and I've said on this show, but, in life, you have these like radio waves. And on radio waves, right, the way that it works is like if you don't have like an antenna, then you're gonna miss it. You're not gonna hear it. So we have to sharpen our antennae to absorb those miracles, be inspired by them, feels God's closeness. And we should have a lichtige mishpacha Chanukah. You should have lit Chanukah, and we should have tremendous joy this Chanukah.
Before I get into the other stuff, That just reminds me of something I actually read in Mishpacha. There's this great series from a matchmaker. And so recently what she was saying was there was this girl who she was, it was in her circle of people she was setting up. And the girl's mother called her and said, that she's really having a hard time. She's just not or somehow maybe from someone she dated, she heard that this girl was not herself. It seems like she was a little down and out. And, when you're down and out, it's hard to find that person you want to spend the rest of your life with, because you want to be your best self to find that best person for you. So the matchmaker actually recommended her. She said, I know this sounds cheesy, but take a journal, and every day I want you to write down 3 things that you're grateful for, right? This gratitude journal. And, when you're dating someone, do it. And if you also want to write down one that that you don't like about him, that's okay too. But I want you overall to be positive. And after a little while, she heard that, this girl was doing amazing. And she was it really helped her to, see the light and see the good. And then soon after, she became engaged and got married, because it brought out the best in her. But I was thinking of that also, one, because it's just great practical advice to do ourselves to, stay positive and grateful. But also, what if we use that journal and we write down miracles or little things of how they worked out? I could focus on the fact that the line was so long at Trader Joe's when I went that I didn't want to go in, so I had to go to another store. Or I could focus on the fact that, I haven't been to that other store in months and months, and there were things that I just forgot about that I love there, and I got to get those Quest protein chips. Those are great at Sprouts. I put them on my salad and have some extra protein. So in any situation, you can focus on the positive or you can focus on the negative. And so if we focus on seeing just those little, I think it's really strengthening our antenna, like you were talking about. It's strengthening our antenna so we can get a better Wi-Fi signal. But the Wi-Fi signal is really the signal of recognizing God's involvement in our lives. So, and I think that's just a nice practical suggestion. It's hard to talk about Chanukah for me because there's so much awesome stuff about Chanukah. And it's hard to focus on what to talk about. But I'm going to do that because for the sake of time. And I like to review it all every year, and I haven't reviewed it all yet. So anyways, okay, first let's just start with some fun facts. Hanukkah is the only holiday that happened in Israel. Whoa, right? Pesach and Sukkot happened in the desert or in Egypt. Purim was in Paras in Iran. It's also the only holiday that actually participating and celebrating the holiday only lasts for a few minutes. It's just while lighting the candles and then that half hour afterwards of appreciating their light. But during the daytime, nothing's doing. You could do Hanukkah projects, but that's not an essential part of how we celebrate the holiday. It's just an extra thing, and it's nice to make things fun for yourself and make things enjoyable. We should do that, but it's not a necessity for Hanukkah. So it's just cool to know. Okay, just some other ideas. So now I'm gonna get a little more, I don't know the word. You can decide yourself. Okay, so every month has a different energy. We're going to talk a little bit about energies. I love this stuff, but it's really cool. I don't know. I learned this last year. Okay, every month has a different energy. So the month of Chanukah, every month also has its own everything, its own its own letter, its own number, its own sense, its own part of the body. There's a lot of ways to look at the cycle of the month, a lot of things that can give us insight to it. So the letter for the month of Kislev, which is the month where Hanukkah starts. Hanukkah is also interesting because it's the only holiday, is it? The only holiday? Yeah, I think so, that goes between 2 months. Most holidays start on the 15th of the month because that's when there's a full moon. And when there's a full moon, the energy is very powerful. So that's naturally when the holiday falls in the month. But Hanukkah is different. Hanukkah starts on the 25th of the month in the Hebrew calendar of Kislev. So Kislev, what's the letter for Kislev? Okay, so I'll give you a hint. It's not Chaf because Chaf is actually the letter of Cheshvan, a different month. It's like the month right after. Oh, does Sukkot go into? No, it's on the 15th. Chaf is the second month of the year when you start from like Tishrei and Rosh Hashanah. But Kislev is the 9th. And the letter for Kislev is actually the second letter of the word Kislev, which is the Samech, which looks literally like this. Right? You could just...
I just think Cheshvan, maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was Ches, but I'm not sure.
Oh, well, maybe it doesn't start with it. But I think, according to my notes, Chaf is still the
That's
letter.
somehow the letter of it. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Like I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Now, there's so much about that, but I just want to skip this letter Samech. Okay. What does, we can do this interactive. What does the word Samech or Somech mean?
To support, to lean on.
Yeah. It's perfect. I didn't even have to prep you. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And if you think about the shape of a samech, it's the shape of like enclosure. It's the shape of a hug. And this is the letter of support. And a hug is one of the biggest actions of support. But what happens if you hug someone too long? They feel suffocated. Actually, I learned from a friend, if you hug someone for 30 seconds, actually, scientifically, that like gets your, I don't know, endorphins or whatever. And that like changes like the chemicals in your brain. But if it's too long, a person would feel.
I want to give a shout on Instagram to my man Sniff Dog. See you. I love you, man. Miss you.
Gosh.
Come visit us. Sorry.
It's so fun. Okay. So if you hug someone too much, it feels suffocating. It's too much support and you can't move, right? Like you just want to get out of it. Also, samech is like anything closed starts with a samech, right? How do you say closed?
How do you say closed?
Yeah.
Sagur.
Sagur. How do you say blocked up?
Sasum. Satum.
Satum. Yeah. How do you say prison?
Beis Kela.
I have a different one.
Soar.
Yeah.
That's a Sar.
Space Soar. Is that a tzadik?
No.
It's just samech. Yeah. Samech is the sense of being support and closed, and that's what the letter represents. Oh my gosh, you guys, look! It's so cool.
Yes.
You guys are awesome. Okay. Okay. Now let's just get into gematria for a minute, okay? We go to the next level. The gematria of Samech, do you know? What's the gematria?
Samech is 60.
60. So every letter in the Hebrew alphabet corresponds to a number. Aleph starts with 1, and then it goes through Yud is 10, and then it goes 20, 30, 40, right? So Samech is 60. So what does this letter 60 have to do with it? Interestingly, how do you spell Samech? Samech, Mem, Kaf. If you add up the other two letters of the word Samech, what do they equal?
60.
60. Whoa. Okay. So it's cool. But the word represents support. Okay. Now, interesting, the Zohar, which is the source of Kabbalah, says, what is this support all about? Chanukah, now we tie it back to Chanukah. Chanukah is this energy of light, right? Like that's what the holiday is all about, that we light all these candles. And it's in the darkest time of the year. So like Chanukah brings that light. So it's interesting because when you bring in light, how does light support us? Light is the only support system that doesn't actually change what's there. It just lights it up so you can see, right? So like, let's say, for example, it's night and you want to walk through the house and there's a chair sticking out in the middle of the room. Well, if you turn on the light, there's no physical change. That like the chair is still there. You have to walk over it, but you see it, and it like supports you to help you through the way. So light, it lightens up something that's there already. And when Mashiach comes at the end of the days, then God will light up the whole world. That suddenly, like, that's what it'll be. That like whatever is in the world, like how it is, yes, that's how it is. But we'll have the light, that we'll have the understanding. We'll be able to see it all, and it'll all make sense to us. At the moment, we're seeing like, this tiny little bit much of the picture, but then we'll see the bigger picture, and we'll like have that light and that understanding. So this whole month is, and also just to tie it back to Joseph. So like Joseph and his brothers, once Joseph said to his brothers, right, they took them through this whole thing. He was like the second in command of Egypt, and they came down to get food, and he took one of the brothers in jail and like to hold him there. And it was like this whole situation. But once he says to them, Ani Yosef, I'm Joseph, all of a sudden there was light. They understood what this whole thing was about. So the whole month of Kislev is really preparation for Chanukah. And interestingly, when you give someone a hug, you're taking the energy that's around you and you're concentrating it within them.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it's more than just like a physical action. There's a whole like significance to it. Yeah. And that's the good feeling of support. But too much, and then we feel imprisoned, because the purpose of the light isn't to just enclose it, but it's to shine it. And that support is not meant to be there forever. It's to give people the strength to and the power to be who they really are, right? So like someone who needs constant support always, like that's not the ideal of a healthy relationship in general. Like obviously if it's, a parent or something, but like in a general healthy relationship that we pick, like, yeah, you support each other throughout, but like you also have that sense of like you're helping each other to grow into our best selves individually also. Okay. So we talk about 60? We said it was 60. Okay, so let's just talk about more 60 and what does this number mean? So 6 or 60, right? If you think about like how many directions are there? There's 6 directions, and that's like the feeling of being surrounded and protected from all sides. Okay, I'm skipping some of these. Interestingly, there was a story with King Solomon in the Tanakh that like there were all these like demons that were bothering him, and he took 60 strong people and he surrounded himself with these 60 people to protect him because of his fears of the demons. Why 60? Because he understood that if he wanted support, it had to be 60. Yeah. How many people went out of Egypt? How many Jews came out of Egypt?
600,000.
Yeah, 600,000. What else? In the Mishnah, right? There's 6 orders of the Mishnah, right? We say like Pesach time, 5 are the books of the
Torah.
6 are the
orders of the Mishnah.
Like at the end of the Seder. So because 6, like we had to make sure that it would be the support for Judaism, that people wouldn't forget it. So it had to be 6. Okay, so Kislev, like we said, is this darkest month, and the nights are the longest. So this is like Hanukkah's at the end of the month, and there's such a peak of darkness, but God gives us this light of Hanukkah, and he says, yes, it's dark, and it's dark right now for you, but I'm bringing you this light to help you, to give you this support right now when you need it, so that we can get through this time, and then afterwards we can be able to thrive on our own, to give us the strength to do that.
Yeah.
So real support, this is just the last idea. Real support is taking someone and being in his place, and it's not changing anything, right? Like real support, like if you think about like therapists and coaches these days, like really it's about like, it's listening, it's asking questions. It's not
like changing anything.
Right. You're not like giving them advice. You're letting them figure it out on their own, but you're not changing them. You can't change anyone. So support really is like the best support is this like light, is like lighting up what's already there. And, you know, finding a friend who needs a support and seeing the greatness within them. And then you help them bring out their own inner light when you do that.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so much what Chanukah is about is again, in the darkest time of year. And it's like the longest nights, you know, and it's like things have been tough, you know, this year especially. It's been tough, you know. Think about where you were last Hanukkah and now. It's like we need that light, we need that support, you know. And so much of it is just this idea of this, like Rav Chaim Shmulevitz is like reminds us that we focus on the miracle of the light. It was unnecessary. God didn't have to do it, but it was like a kiss from above. It was like, I'm here supporting you at this difficult time, you know. And that's like what we're focusing on. It says in this week's parsha that Joseph, he went down from he's being sold into slavery, but in the Ishmaelite, in the Arab merchant caravan that was carrying him, it smelled nice. There were nice spices. Like, who cares? Why does the Torah tell us that? Rashi says because usually they carried, you know, fuel and
manure.
Oil and fuel and manure, but maybe it was manure. I thought it was just oils and fuel maybe, but it didn't smell nice. And now it smells nice. So who cares how it smells? His whole life is being ruined. The idea is like this one little thing, you know, despite what's going on, if I'm getting schlepped off in a police car to jail, but it smelled nice, who cares, right? No, but the fact that it smelled nice, which it didn't usually do, was just like a little kiss from God. I'm still with you in this time of despair. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. You know, it's dark. It's difficult. Don't give up. I'm here supporting you. And when we have God supporting us, we can get through anything, you know?
I was actually, just today I was learning with Kayla. Shout out to Kayla. We're learning about Shema. And just this one pasuk, this one verse that we talked about, that's just related to what we were learning, is Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. That, you know, every night when we go to sleep, this verse from Psalms, that like we're going to sleep, but just because we're going to sleep, like we don't need to be scared, because here God is always awake and always watching over us.
Beautiful. Yeah. So in the darkest time of year, the longest nights, so at the dark time of probably a lot of our kind of our lives, this pandemic, you know, it's like very difficult time. But to remember, we look into the Chanukah lights, we remember that we're not alone. God's with us, and we're supported. I love that. Yep, Samech, support, beautiful.
Okay, two things. I just want to tie that into something funny. But also, Nir, I really like your comment. I feel like I recently heard a story about that. Yeah, maybe from one of my kids. That your grandfather said that when they traveled from village to village, they could identify the safe areas because they saw the Chanukah in the window. It's so powerful. It's so special. Okay, the last thing, just when you were saying like harder times. So it's funny because now we're in week, 5 of living with your parents? Do you realize it's been 5 weeks we've been here? And like, God willing, we have 2 more Shabbosim, and then God willing, right? God willing, like Joseph, right? Like it's all in Hashem's hands. We have to always recognize that. But so God willing, at that point, we'll move into our house. But it's just funny because you could think about it. It's been great. It's going great, and it's fun. And it's like, it's really, I think I'm loving it more than anyone. But like your smile. But the point is like you could think about it this way, like, yeah, it's a hard time. Like we're not living at home though, you know, it's not normal. And yeah, I might feel like I'm on vacation sometimes, but like, it's not normal, but like God's always with us and helping us through. And I know that this experience of living here, which like we really chose to do this, like it was really what's best for us. And it's cool, like 5 weeks in, seeing and being and like, just how much we've learned, just I think from being with your parents and from having them like such an intricate part of our daily lives and routine that like.
Big shout out, by the way.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mom and Dad. Let 6 little children take over your house after being empty nesters for a whole bunch of years.
Crowd your kitchen and your pantry,
very nice
morning and night.
We applaud you. Yes.
Yeah, leave our stuff everywhere. But it's really special to be able to like have that hindsight. I think that's some of the light of like sometimes like being in hindsight gives us that light so we can see Hashem's providence. Was there all along.
Beautiful. Good. Okay. Well, that just does it. 1 hour. Try to keep it 1 hour. So it's 1 hour and 27 seconds. We'll call it there. Thank you all.
See ya.
Beautiful. Have a beautiful Chanukah. Hopefully you'll join us for our Chanukah party virtually Thursday night. If not, hopefully we will see you in the near future. Thank you all for your participation. We love having you here.
It's so fun when you write in the chat.
Yeah, it really enhances it for us. Yeah, exactly. So God willing, we can do this again soon. Personally, if not, we'll be back with you Tuesday night for the next installment of Live from the Bunker. Thank you guys. Shout out to everybody for watching. Thank you, Nir, Todd, and everyone else. Big sniff. Baruch Hashem. I love you, man, on Instagram.